This is Robert Martellacci, the Mindshare Learning Report. We have the good fortune of interviewing Dr. Dave Williams, astronaut and director of the McMaster Medical Robotics Institute at St. Joseph's Medical Center.
That's correct.
Good morning, Dr. Williams, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Well, I had the good fortune of meeting up with you at the recent Orion conference, and I was very inspired by your presentation and your background, having conducted 2 missions to space. Mm-hmm. Now, you spent several years in the U.S. working for NASA following your space missions. What inspired you to take on the leadership role here at McMaster?
When I was down in the States, I had the very great fortune of being seconded by the Canadian government to be part of the senior management team at NASA. So I was very proud of my Canadian heritage, very proud of the role that Canada was playing as a major spacefaring nation, exploring space and helping build the International Space Station. But I was working in senior management at NASA as Director of Life Sciences at Johnson Space Center. It was an unbelievable time as we're getting humans ready to live and work on this world-class orbiting laboratory. When I retired, after 2 space flights, 3 record-setting spacewalks, the question was, do I come back to Canada? Do I stay in the States? I was very proud of my Canadian heritage, thrilled to be part of the Canadian Space Agency team, and for me, it was a given that I was coming back to Canada, and it was just a question of where I would land, and I was very excited to be able to land here in Hamilton at McMaster.
Well, we're very pleased to have you on this side of the border. Now, partnerships are a vital component of the success of NASA, and Chris Hadfield talked about the many international partnerships and the collaboration that occurred to make it happen. Perhaps you can share with us, your experience and your view of partnerships and how you've taken some of that knowledge and experience and incorporated it into your work today.
Yeah. To me, everything is about partnerships. If anyone in the corporate world or the academic world, the research world, the clinical world, or space thinks that they're able to go it alone, I think they're going to find that it's a significant challenge. When we look at the space station program, arguably this is the most significant technological feat in the history of the human species, and it was achieved through partnerships. Bringing together people from different backgrounds, different cultures, different languages to build complex engineering hardware that's brought together in many cases for the first time in space. A truly remarkable achievement. And in fact, we think of the space station as a scientific research platform. Arguably, some of the most important lessons learned from the space station program are not about science. They're not about research. They're about partnership. They're about people working together to achieve complex tasks, achieving significant goals as we go forward and explore this exciting frontier.
Fascinating. And so you conducted 2 space missions, and you joked at the Orion conference about being a construction worker the second time you went up. Perhaps you can share with us the difference between your first experience and the second experience, and perhaps what surprised you while you were up there.
Yeah. My first space flight, for 16 days, I was a neuroscientist in space. I had a number of other tasks associated with the mission, but fundamentally I was there for my scientific skills as a neuroscientist, doing complex experiments, understanding how the nervous system adapted to this really unique environment. On my second space flight, I wasn't there as a scientist primarily. I was there to go outside as a spacewalker, doing 3 spacewalks, assembling the space station, repairing gyroscopes on the space station that were not functioning, switching them out to new ones, servicing the space station, installing new structures. So that's where the metaphor is. I went from being a scientist to being a construction worker, helping to build it, and I think that just reflects the breadth of skills that's required to be able to function in today's space environment. That one can't just be a pilot or a scientist or a spacewalker. We bring all these skills together, and it's really exciting looking at where we're going right now, thinking that somewhere out there in Canada or North America is a 5 or 6-year-old child watching what we do, mesmerized with the idea that perhaps they can do it too, but not do it on the space station, do it on the surface of Mars.
What surprised you the second time around, or the first time for that matter?
You know, for me, the second space flight and getting a chance to do a spacewalk was really a remarkable experience. When you open the hatch of the airlock and stick your head out for the first time. And you realize intellectually that you're traveling 25 times the speed of sound, roughly 8 kilometers every second, and you see the Earth about 350 kilometers below you or above you. Because if you go out the airlock head first, you look up at the Earth, so you tend to think of it as above you. If you go out the airlock feet first, you see it below you. That is a truly amazing experience. That the best analogy, I guess, would be comparing driving down the highway like the 401 in a school bus, being inside, or driving down the 401 on a motorcycle 60 miles an hour with no helmet on. That's what it's like being outside. It's a totally different experience.
Now, your current work is fascinating in the medical robotics space. You've taken the leadership and introduced some world-renowned innovations around that. And perhaps you can share with us what you're most proud of in that area. And I know you did some underwater training as well in that area.
You know, I think from an innovation perspective, what's exciting about space is we drive the development of new technologies. Space is an accelerator for technology innovation. And in Canada, what we're doing is taking the robotic technology for the space station, looking at modifying it, miniaturizing it, but taking that expertise and those concepts into a new field of surgical robotics, setting Canada apart as a world leader in developing that next generation of medical technology and surgical technology that will enhance our ability to take care of patients.
Now, and I was fascinated to learn this, and so in many respects Canada leads. And then when I look at our education system and our focus on K-12 and higher ed, and pushing the 21st century envelope, we tend to lag behind other countries when it comes to innovation. You know, perhaps it's the cost of implementing technology and teacher training, and I asked the same question to Dr. Johnson, one of the co-authors of Disrupting Class. How do we accelerate it? How do we get some of the digital immigrants, perhaps, who weren't born with technology, to embrace it more, because the young people are kind of driving this innovation in a sense?
Yeah. You know, I think there's two aspects to it, empowering and embracing. Because if I'm a teacher working in today's classroom, even though I may personally be very excited about technology and think about many innovative roles in the application of technology in the classroom, we need the ability to empower the teachers with those visions, with the technology, so that they can go forth and implement. And that's a challenge in supplying the technology, the actual hardware. It's a challenge in developing the software, the educational tools to be used on the hardware platform, whatever that may be. But also it's kind of a cultural challenge that in the educational system, the willingness to embrace new technologies. What's exciting is we're seeing that change. We're seeing it today in the classroom. And imagine 10, 15 years down the road when you have all students technologically enabled and they're able to use that learning platform to enhance their learning experience, but at the same time developing the tools, the knowledge, the skills, the judgment they need to go forth and become the engineers, the scientists, the physicians of the future.
So what's next for Dr. Dave Williams, Astronaut?
You know, I'm excited just to be part of the academic environment in Canada. I'm really thrilled to be here at McMaster in Hamilton. We're working very hard, submitting grant proposals to try and get new funds to come in and support innovative research. And I think, for me, the legacy is all about the next generation. Just like when Chris and I were growing up in the 60s, we watched television and we saw who we identified with as role models, the astronauts flying in space in those days. My legacy at this point is hopefully to be a role model for the next generation of Canadians who are growing up, who want to pursue careers in research or medicine, education, developing new innovative technologies, and potentially even become an astronaut to represent Canada as we go forth as one of the major spacefaring nations in the world, leaving low Earth orbit, part of the international partnership to explore space.
Very well put. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Williams. That was Dr. Dave Williams, astronaut and director of the Medical Robotics Institute at McMaster University at St. Joseph's Medical Center. Until next time, keep the learning curve steep.